Shou Sugi Ban. It's a name for an ancient Japanese tradition dating back to 18th century where instead of finishing with paint, wood was burned into charcoal on the surface. This not only created a beautiful cladding material but helped weatherize the wood. Burning the surface hardens the wood material and removes some of the porousness, which helps prevent water and moisture from being absorbed. The soot layer also helps improve the fire resistance of the wood by increasing the temperature threshold needed for combustion. If you're anywhere around Kyoto, you'll notice that a lot of the wood structural elements are treated using this method. But Shou Sugi Ban is actually not Shou Sugi Ban. The proper Japanese name for this process is called Yakisugi. Actually, if you approach most architects and craftspeople in Japan and talk about Shou Sugi Ban, they simply won't know what you're talking about. That's because the term is based off of a misreading and a mistranslation of the kanji, the Chinese characters in the phrase. What is kanji? Well, thousands of years ago, when Buddhism first became trendy and cool in Japan, scholars would learn Chinese characters. And as these Chinese characters became adopted into mainstream Japanese writing, they were used essentially to shorten the long syllable words, and some of the Chinese pronunciations were also absorbed into the Japanese language. Kanji usually doesn't fully replace the hiragana syllables in a sentence, it usually just helps shorten it. It's so it doesn't look like you're reading a run-on sentence. It speeds up reading time considerably. But because kanji is both used in place of originally Japanese words known as kunyomi, and also sometimes utilizes Chinese pronunciation in Japanese words, also called onyomi, a single character can have multiple pronunciations dependent on the context. Usually when a word with multiple kanji is used, it's a sign that the Chinese pronunciation may be applicable, but not always. I myself have struggled with this while learning Japanese. One time I was with my host family and I proudly read the sign of a nearby izakaya, a Japanese pub. I was hoping to demonstrate my amazing kanji learning skills, and the sign had the character for fish and people. So I read it aloud as sakanamin. My host sister was like, "What?" And she said, "No, that's uotami, not sakanamin, uotami." I had read the sign and accidentally mixed the kunyomi from the Japanese pronunciation and the onyomi, the Chinese pronunciation, together to form a word that simply didn't exist. That is how Yakisugi became Shou Sugi Ban in the West. And to be fair, because of this, knowing the proper readings of words can be difficult in Japanese, especially when translating obscure artisan or craft-related words. I myself have struggled with this also when researching Japanese crafts. But the Western adaptation of Shou Sugi Ban as opposed to Yakisugi is indicative of a larger problem, that architects in America and Europe have little exposure and understanding of Japanese crafts, let alone of other Asian countries. Shou Sugi Ban in the West is a term used to generically refer to burned wood, any wood in fact. But in Japan, Yakisugi is a product. Much like the difference between champagne and sparkling wine, or Parmigiano Reggiano and Parmesan cheese, the tradition and craft between Yakisugi is something that should be respected. For example, the sugi in Yakisugi means cypress, specifically Cryptomeria cypress. This is a type of wood that traditional Japanese craft wood suppliers like Nakamoto Forestry believe is the only wood suited to create Yakisugi. In Europe, for example, most spin-offs of Yakisugi actually use pine, and in this case, I would suggest to use the word yakimatsu instead to refer to these products. Yakimatsu means burnt pine. Furthermore, unlike some DIY videos might have you believe, true Yakisugi is not produced by burning with a torch or burning on both faces. You typically grill the wood by making a chimney out of 3 planks. The wood chimney is then placed over an open fire. The smoke and heat is sucked up this chimney, creating an even char on all 3 planks. This charred face is what is used on the exterior of the building. Traditionally, Yakisugi was produced on the building site by the project manager for use in the project. However, these days lumber mills will also produce it for ease of construction. I was motivated to make this video because of a recent Arc Daily article on Yakisugi that called it Shou Sugi Ban and described the process as burning the wood with a torch. Yakisugi has, in recent years, exploded in popularity in both Europe and America because it's a sustainable way to weatherize wood and looks very beautiful. While I and other architects take great inspiration from the historical traditions of other countries, it's something that we need to be respectful while doing. I am a bit wary of turning important traditions from countries into trends devoid of their original meaning. I think taking the time to call Yakisugi by its proper name and understanding the tradition and history behind it is important if you're going to utilize it in a project.